Greetings, this is Matthew Butler, and welcome to the Cinema 4D tutorial on my text trace eraser template that we got here. It's very powerful. Let's jump right in and show you how to get things done. So you got three things right up here. One, that's just my website, so you can visit it if you want more files or see what I do, or you want to contact me if you need help with this at all. Two, we got the text trace eraser file that we're going to be using, and then we got the sample cameras, which if I turn this little red light off, clicking on it, you'll notice we have, let's drop this down, we got three cameras here that I have that you can get a sense of what you can do with this. I mean, I can't really provide you with perfect cameras to use because depending on what you're using this for, you're going to have to customize the camera based on how long your text is or how long your settings are, etc. So these are just sample moves that you can be like, oh, that's a cool idea, I'm going to use that, or something like that along those lines. So with the cameras, I basically have changed the focal length to be lower on some of them, and then I have some of them with keyframes on them, and then also we got the depth of field I have coming into effect. So when we bring this into After Effects, we can play around with the depth of field. Depth of field, I have the rear blur changing as well because the camera's moving pretty far back. And then of course, go to accordance, I have the cameras all moving. A bunch of keyframes. So that's the cameras. Straight ahead, you know, bare bone. If you know how to make a camera, you should probably just make your own camera, because this is not just like a, here's a camera, put in your text, go. No, this is more of you input your text, you customize it, and then depending on how you want it to look and feel, you can use my cameras as sort of a template to guide yourself. So let's jump into the text trace eraser. Click on controls and let's drag this up a little. So we got basically these 5, 6 things here, 3, 4, 5. So first off, we got text controls. Click on that, and we have 21 text characters. So that means you can have up to 21 text characters in here. So right now it just says sample. Let's say videohive.com. Click off of it, and then we got text that says videohive.com and another line of text that's a little off. Now if we keep on typing characters up to this 21 character level, you notice I typed like 9, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 after this 8. It automatically will bring that down to 21 characters because nothing else will show up. So the max is 21 characters. After that, you can choose the font that you want to use. So I'm using Arial. It's just the standard layout that the template starts with. But if you're in the mood for you know, whatever you got going, you can hook yourself up, change your style, make it look like your website font, whatever. And then we got the tracking. So if you need to closen up your type or make it farther away, you can do that right there. I'm just going to leave that at -5, let's say, nice and close. So I'm going to delete this .com and all these numbers on the end just because it'll make things faster for this tutorial. So next up, we got the basic text align. So if you click this reset to default, so you'll notice right away that all these blue characters just jumped over. So you click off that, see this blue type has changed its spacing. So if we increase that, that will basically give it more tracking in between, so you can line it up with the basic outline of the text, because Cinema 4D is a little messed up in the way it produces its letter spacing, so you will have to go in and line it up individually based on the letters. So with that out of the way, you want to go to this front view, which is F4. If you click that on the keyboard, so you want to click your letters, all your blue letters. You want to line those up. Unless something looks a little weird, then you'll just do it manually and change it a little bit. But let's just click these blue guys, move them over one by one, and once all these are lined up, we'll jump into the settings of having the outlines come up. One thing to note is to make this more of a set of template that you can't like screw up. If you try to move it like in the Y direction, you won't be able to. So you'll be like set to the Y and set to the Z, so you won't mess up like, oh, the type's not exactly correct. So that's a good prevention there. So now that that's all lined up for the video hive, we can hop back into this text trace eraser controls. So basic text alignment, it's all lined up. Next we'll go to individual character controls. So this is the clone per character, which means each character has a bunch of clones coming up. So if we just scrub through this a little bit, you get all your clones coming up. You can see in this overhead view we got a bunch of different clones. There's going to be 22 of them per character. So if we get this side view, take a render real quick, you'll see all these different clones coming out of nowhere. There's 22 of them. So if you want to be doing this basic text alignment that we were just doing, and it's going really slow, bogging down your system, you just drop this down to like 0 and you can hop into these letters and really get the speed back. And then just crank this back up to however many you want in there. So obviously if you get like jack this up to 100, your system is going to be slower responsive wise, and it'll take a little bit longer to render, but you know, you got a bunch more lines coming out here, and you notice it still renders pretty fast. Alright, let's just drop this down to 20 again for this tutorial. And then we got the random seed after that. So if we look at this from an angle more, you'll notice, let's see, there's like 4 groupings here. We just changed the seed. That changes all the seed, random seed for everything. So if you don't like the style of something, or it's getting in the way of the camera for one of these lines popping out of nowhere, if you're really close, you just can change the seed and fix it up like that, you know. And let's see here. We got this offset character time animation. After that, something really easy to do to show you what this does is I'll crank up this to a bunch of numbers after it again, and then drop this to like 10. So basically this is controlling the amount of delay that it'll take to get to the next character. So it's going to be, this is going to start animating, and then 10 frames after that the I is going to start animating, 10 frames after that the D is going to start animating. So it'll take a long time to get through all these letters. So you notice it's going, you know, render this out real quick. The V, I, D, and E is almost done. They're already done, while all the other letters are still coming together, or else they haven't even started yet. So you can use this to your advantage if you want it to drag on for a long period of time, but if you keep this like kind of like lower, it would be better so it doesn't take so long. because if you got 20 letters in here, it's going to multiply the amount of time based on your offset, so it'll jack things up really quickly if you go too high with this. So let's go now into chord properties. Okay, for this we're going to zoom up into one of these guys. Okay, so we got our chord right here. Let's go back a little bit, so you got a bunch of different ones. Okay, so we have a chord, like 4 different chords right here in the eye. The line sides is basically the amount of sides that individual layer has right here. So just show you, it makes it more circular if you add more, but it also increases your render time. So if you want something more circular, you can pop right on up and up and up, and it'll definitely look more circular, but it'll also slow down your system. But you can also drop this down to like 3 and get a nice triangle look or a square look with 4. But also, I mean, if you're dropping your size down, you probably won't even notice that it's like not a perfect circle if you have your radius down. So next we have radius. Obviously, if you drop this down, you got these nice thin little lines here, which are awesome if you have like a ton of clones. They look totally awesome. And my render's coming, chugging along. And then you see all these little nice thin lines that you could use for anything, for like outlines of your type or kind of a blueprint kind of feel to it, whatever. And this is also keyframe animatable. So we got this, we gotta drop this down, it's bogging down my system. So our radius can be animated. So let's say we have like this big chunky type you can start with, and then later on down when all your letters start to form together, it comes down to a thinner type, or maybe even larger depending on what you want to do. So you got a nice thick type and then it goes thinner. Nice little effect you can add there. Okay, now we got the start position, in position, and animating frames for position. For this, I am going to, let's drop this down to 3, increase our radius to 6 so we can see this easily. So let's go to 60 frames in and look at this sideways. So the start position is how far away these shapes are from the center line 0 on the z-axis. So it'll start at 110 meters away and then go in to 3 meters away, and that'll occur over 50 frames. So if you want it to be exactly where the middle is, you can put that to 0, and you notice those all come down to 0. And let's bring it back, and let's say you have you just want some weird looking type to be flying around, and then your letters are forming in the middle. You can do that as well. It's like that, and you notice they stay there, and we got the letters forming right there. And then of course, if you want it to happen like extremely quickly or extremely slowly, drop that up to like 271, and then we got the start at 0, and then it goes farther out. Something to know with if you get too high with this number, your animation will not carry over. So it's best to keep this like somewhere between 0 and 150 I'll probably change this later so you can't go above 150, but just take note of that. So that's the only kind of confusing thing, but it's pretty straightforward if you think about it. So these all three work together. That's the core properties. And then finally we got the output color, which is, we've been using blue this whole time. Let's say we want a little white. Now your text lines are white. You want a little glow. I'm going to have to crank this size down. It's taking up too much time to render for this tutorial. So now we got a glow, a nice white glow around our lines here. And let's say we don't want it transparent, we just want it like straight up filled solid. You don't see anything through it. Turn off the glow, you can see these are solid and this is transparent. You can see through it a little bit. And then finally we got a bottom reflection, which there is a bottom here and a nice thin line to give it just some depth here. And then we got some character reflection here coming in. And if you want to increase the blurriness or decrease it, you can click on this bottom material here, go to reflection. It's at 3 right now. You can crank that up or crank it down if your renders are taking too long. That's basically it. If you're using some weird font and this bottom area is like, intersecting, you can just drag this puppy down and your letters won't intersect anymore. That's basically everything you need to know. I mean, it's can get really creative with this. Like, well, one thing I was just messing around with was I made a bunch of zeros, or O's, I guess. Go to the first frame. This is key. Make sure you go to the first frame when you're lining this stuff up, or else you could run into problems. Let's go into the front view, F4, and I put all of these directly on top of each other. And then I just animated it, starting out with a start position of like 125 and in position 125. So we got this nice little long corridor, kind of like a warp drive thing going on here. We increase the number of particles, you see it's like kind of a neat effect here. You can get, and yeah, that's basically it. Have fun with this. When you go into After Effects, the After Effects file I provided is very limited because I don't have any idea what you're going to use this for, so I can't really provide you with much, unfortunately. So all I'm providing you is there's a depth field that you could use for depth of field to make things blurry. Let's hop into the settings real quick. So I'm rendering out a multipass that has this depth field, so you can see this blurred, like, in the distance, blurred, specular, in case you wanted some special highlights on any of these that you want it to show up differently in After Effects, make the white light pop or something. The object buffer is this bottom floor, so if you're like, this is not looking so well, you can just use that matte to take it out. Something to note is if you have transparency on, the object buffer will look a little funky, so just keep that in mind. And then reflection, if you just want the reflection from this text for some reason. Then you can go to your output settings, go to change this length to, however long your animation is, and good to go. So back to After Effects, you got 3 backgrounds that I'm providing that you can use that were kind of in the preview animation. And you got your depth field that you can use for depth field, you know. That's basically it. I mean, this is a big Cinema 4D template that you can use to your full potential here. So I hope you guys find this very useful, and if you have any questions at all, just drop me a line on VideoHive, ButlerM, or else visit my website and email me at butlerm.com. I would have no problem getting back to you. This is Matthew Butler. Thanks.